So, we haven't done much scripture reading here. We've done a little scripture reading from the Quran thus far, and what I'd like to do is a little scripture reading from the Old Testament. This is Isaiah chapter 3. And Isaiah says, "For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet, and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable." Oh. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? "When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand." So they knew what kings were about in those days. Not really a great idea to be taking on the reins of a dying principality for any monarch. Anyway, something no king wants to leave for his son or daughter. Anyway. "In that day he shall swear, saying, I will not be a healer, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of people." Sounds familiar too. "For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory." That means you're pissing off God, basically. Something that Christian apologists say doesn't occur in Christian scripture. Christian scripture is based on the Old Testament as well as the New Testament, in case any of the born-again people forgot this. Anyway, let me continue, please. The show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom, and they hide it not. So these are your, perverted kings strutting about, ripping you off, and not even being disgraced by it because the next guy coming along wants to do it too. Understand, you're being bugger fucked by your older brothers here. And that show's over. Anyway. "Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves." Now, what does that mean? Well, a lot of people, my experience is a lot of people who do evil get kind of off on it. They get a perverse pleasure out of it, and so it's kind of dear to their hearts. And so asking people to give up their evil is a hardship for many, because they know no other joy. I'm serious. Anyway, we have about 5.5 years to complete this vomit, in case you haven't been reading. And I'm very concerned about keeping my word and getting this thing done on time. Moving next to a hospital is never a smart thing to do, believe me, as you can hear. Anyway, or anywhere close. I'm not even next to it, I'm like 3 blocks away. Anyway. "Say ye unto the righteous that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings." So what's the righteous? What's righteous here? So if I'm righteous, what's that mean? Well, that means I always extend justice to my neighbor. Like I never rob my neighbor. I never hinder my neighbor. If I can't help him, I'm free to not do so. But I'm not free to hinder anyone. That's part of my upbringing. over the last 43 years or so. That's been significant training. I didn't know why. I just couldn't imagine why anybody would do that, but believe me, I can begin to see now it's a very popular modus of entertainment. Anyway, let me get back to this. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given him. So this means if I've been stealing from widows and orphans and the unsuspecting and people who've entrusted their fortunes and lives into my care, that would be politicians in our view. Politicians are hiding findings that are carcinogenic to their populations because they might be unpopular politically. We find that this conduct is treasonous to both the principality and to ourselves. The crown of this little party here. Now, you got to understand, this party is going to change. The bullshit is over yesterday. You know, running for bigger guns isn't going to do it this time. You cannot kill me with guns. You can disappear this flesh for a while. But the light will appear somewhere else, stronger, brighter, more potent. Anyway, you need a miracle of instruction. Desperately. And I've always found the best miracles of instruction were always by those who finance their own research and who are not being paid by me to deliver their findings. And the scientific research that I did, the nutritional scientific research that I did, and the other health-provoking scientific research that I engaged in, I found that these individuals were the only source of data that we empowered. If the individual was not funding his own research, we paid no attention to their work. Where the individual was pandering to their own delusions, we didn't honor their research with much investigation either. But those who did finance their own research and who made their findings available, gladly made their findings available, we took very serious note of and found rich rewards there. And so we would like to emulate them as much as we can because they were the leading lights in our own growth and inspiration for whatever meager cleanings I managed to scrape together in the last period of time that we're offering here. And so it's germane to ask what you're doing here. Like, why are you listening to me? Why are you paying attention to what I have to say? You know, there are some of you who want to hurt me. And there's no doubt in my mind about this. And you know, you're welcome to try as much as you want. You know, you haven't succeeded too well so far, but you never know. You might do better next time. But for those of you who don't want to hurt me and who might be interested in something I have to say, I invite you to consider the following. Does it make sense to you that all there is to life is getting a job and going to the doctors and then dying? Like, never knowing what friendship is, never knowing that I live around people who, if my barn burns down, will drop what they're doing and come and rebuild me a new one. And know that they can count on me to do the same. Like, there are pockets of civilization like this today on planet Earth. Not many, unfortunately, but there are some. My understanding is the Danes don't even lock their bicycles. And neither my father nor I ever locked our front doors. Today I do. Today I live in a downtown metropolitan area, and I have very, very crazy people living very, very close proximity to me who would think nothing about robbing me if they thought they could, if they thought they'd get away with it, or if they thought there was a half a chance they'd get away with it. And, and this is how they are. And there are many such people on this planet. And they're living in very, very interesting places. Palaces, ghettos, bordellos, and churches, synagogues, mosques. They're the infertile posers to devotion. Not much fruit yields from them, but they're good at finding fault with others. Their calling in life, they seem to feel, is the invalidation of anything new that wiggles, especially if I don't know what it is. I had a man threaten me in Las Vegas once. Told me he wanted me out of town. Who did I think I was, going around talking to his customers? I pointedly told him, I'll be very pleased to point that out to his customers when I'm speaking with them, that they belong to him, and I'd like to see his receipt for this. He wasn't amused with me, and I didn't leave town. I stayed until my business was sufficiently done. Or am I moving somewhere else? So I've never taken to threats by bullies or delusional petty kings kindly. Like, he was perfectly welcome to do whatever he wanted to me, and he was clear about it, and he chose not to, and I'm grateful he did. I don't like bullies, and I don't like sneaks, and I don't like sneaky bullies especially. And if you don't fall into that category, you're basically my friend. You are in love with me. If you are a sneaky bully, or just a plain bully, come and see me sometime. I know, like a lot of people have tried to waste me. And I'm still here, and many of them aren't. And there's not a single person that has stolen from me that I don't feel sorry for. Who, in some instances, I had to beg God to lighten up. If I had to lose to somebody in a fight, I would prefer to lose to me than God. So, you want to come and start with me first. Then if you get through me, then you can go and fight with the big guy. Okay? But bullies, sneaky bullies, and sneaks are going to have a very, very fucking prickly ride as long as there's any crown on this planet. So, you might want to jump into truth as if you really mean it, and you might catch on. You know, I understand you've got no intuition, your wits are so fucking dim, you think you're master of reality. What you're being given here is a life preserver, a life shirt, if you will, being tossed to you. If you refuse this, you will get to drown in your own effluent. And I don't care how much you don't like me. I don't like you enough to wish that upon you. I don't not like you enough to wish that upon you. You belong to me. It hurts me to see waste of any description, of any kind. The waste of human potential and joy. See it. Schmut. Hurts. But I'm used to that. Understand? I'm a tough cookie. And I stand for things. And so do you. You just may not know it yet. It may be that you've spent your whole life worshiping your ego, your suffering, your misery. The reasons why you don't have what you want. Can you imagine worshiping the reasons why I don't got what I want? I suppose I want to be 19. I'm not 19. I just suppose that's my whole thing. I would look in the mirror and say, I'm 19, I'm going to practice affirmations to the cows come home. I want to be 19. You know what? I'm never going to be 19 again. In this incarnation, I'm never going to be 19 again. And I'm never going to be 60 again, or I'm not going to be 90 again, or 100 again. But whatever I am, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be true to me and my God. No more bullshit. As your king, I can't afford none of it. Not a shred. Not the slightest wiggle of it. So vomit it up. And if you've got some friends, they might hang around and help you. You know, you put some cool water in your forehead while you're going through it. You know, when I work with people here, we have Kleenex and a waste paper basket handy for the vomit. You didn't have a miracle of instruction sufficient to touch your soul. Not that really you can relate to. It knows who you are. You've never had this in your life experience. You have no personal relationship with any being greater than yourself. And that scares you shitless, and it should. But you need to think there's something else going on here. There really is. Things are starting to happen. All kinds of weird things are starting to happen that are beginning to really rock the sensibilities of this planet. And let me share something with you. Not only are you imaginative and sentient if you're watching this, and not only are you required to make choices now that's going to affect your future and the future of your progeny for at least 1,000 years. I had my life, it would be millions, but at least 1,000. And now is the time, and you are here, and it's your deal. You need to either help this begin your worship of the truth and communicate your findings. There's no secrets left. There's nothing hidden that's going to stay there. All of it. All of it. None left over. Complete, done, slam dunk, all 7 billion, 5.5 years from now. Then we get on to some good times. Don't complain to me about how this thing is set up. I'd like to do the good times first too, you know. That's how I always did it before, but I gotta obey laws. Not only do I got to, I want to, I delight in obeying these laws. And I do it with relish and exactitude and commitment unknown. Karma's plan. But you don't need to take my word for it. Just ask yourself this question. What happened to the Gulf of Mexico? How come people in Seattle have to wash everything they own now? How come the fish in the Grand Banks of Canada are depleted? We practically walk across the goddamn ocean on them 25 years ago, 30 years ago. The last 30 years we've gone downhill. In the last 30 years, police lost the presumption of courtly manners or any type of gentlemanly intercourse. Other populations became an invading army. Stuff has happened over the last 30 years that would send any credible, any dead monarch into a tailspin. The worldwide value of currency has gone down by, I mean, how can something go down by 700% that never had value to start with? You understand what I'm saying? Like dollar bills are like tulip bulbs in ancient homes. People traded their houses for tulip bulbs, and then in the market crash of tulip bulbs, you know, everybody except the people with wit and larceny in their hearts lost. And you see, the people with wit weren't given the wit to cultivate larceny. And they know this. Each and every one of them knows this. There's no doubt in their mind. But you see, you buy into it a little bit at a time. You get reasonable. Everybody's doing it, and you know what? It's the Polish way. People in Poland, please forgive me. I'm trying to win friends and influence people here, so my humblest apologies for painting the noble Poles with this brush, or Danes, or Norwegians, or Icelandic people. And this little message may be for you, but it's not delivered at you. You have created kingdoms sufficient unto themselves where you found ways to not irritate your neighbor sufficient to where they want to kill you, and you don't go about prosecuting war on them. You have little or no arms industry, and you have jurisprudence that even your politicians believe in. politicians who are man enough to come out and say things that are politically unpopular globally. Like, for instance, our police are trained and encouraged to notice people who don't belong, don't fit in. Right? Now, if you're sitting around on a street corner smoking dope, and the Danes don't like that, and you're a guest in their country, it would behoove you to not do that shit, particularly if you're Muslim, because it pisses me personally off. And I don't like to be pissed off. Let me say this. You know, the Muslim faith, in its purity, is the faith of Jesus, Lord Buddha, Noah, Abraham, Father Damien, any worthy druid priest, any man who's ever served his fellow with full heart, and any woman who's ever given everything she has in the service of any man. Are my brides and grooms. Recently, a lesbian girl, I think it's in Iraq, openly lesbian girl in Iraq. I think that's her home country, I believe. It may not be, but I'm assuming it is. And if I can't be truthful to my nature in my home, then where can I be truthful to my nature? And if God had seen fit to make everyone heterosexual, that's the way we would all be. Can you grasp that in your tiny little pseudo-Muslim head? What gives little bands of Muslim perverts the right to go around exercising their little hard-ons on outspoken females? And outspoken males? The practice of the principles of the Quran was never meant to be perfection. And all of the orders of God are to be practiced with leniency and mercy and generosity of heart. And if you have to administer justice, if you have to whip somebody, you make sure you have a copy of the Quran or the Bible under your goddamn arm while you're doing it, or you're going to have to whip me. Or I'm going to whip you. And I'm going to be as public about it as I can possibly be. So, things are changing on planet Earth. It's about time. If you've got a problem with me, you're sneaky, you're covert, you want to humble bunt my ass behind my back, you want to judge me in your narrow little mind amongst your fellows and find me wanting, you go right ahead. But just make sure you've read my books before you sneak up behind me, pull out your rusty little penis and squirt your steel bullets into my bum. In the back of my head is a neighbor of mine who delightfully pointed out he'd like to do recently. I like to blow the back of your head off just like JFK. He's not talking like that too much anymore. I didn't have to do anything but share the truth with him. So, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to get your ass into the promised land. You just have to be willing to capitulate to the truth and give up your bullshit entirely. And until entirely is done, stay the fuck where you are. You'll never get across the border, and if I find you buggering with the fence, arch. So, understand that love isn't always agreeable. Love isn't always non-intrusive. Love is not always gentle. And true love is not always kind. True love is unlimited. And 99.9% of the wiggling mud on this planet today cannot master the movement of their own mind for longer than 3 seconds. You know, and if you want to be absolutely certain, and I'd even be willing to bet on this, 7 seconds. 99.99999% have no mastery at all with regard to your own wits. You cannot sustain the focus of your own attention for longer than 7 seconds without your mind wandering. And you presume to argue with us or question our ethics or edicts. There's a bit of a presumption, but we must make allowances for the undergraduates and for the dwarfs who are still holding themselves forth as doctors of anything. Please. You know, worshiping your payday doesn't do me a whole hell of a lot of good. You ever notice that? You know, you worshiping your payday will make any cognition you have to do for me an effort and a pain in the ass. So you know what? Your payday can get lost permanently. In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Please, do not tempt the gods. You seek no one's loss. No one's love. And everyone's pain. It's not easy. But it's doable. It's required. And it's our job to get done. Not a single one of you left out. Doesn't matter whether you're Hindu, Chinese, Burmese, petulant, insolent, twisted, or a fully enlightened Buddha. You belong to us. You're wanted at home, but you don't have to come. You need to understand this. You don't have to come, but you're wanted. Big time. And you're wanted by more than just me. Just us. You're wanted by the most beautiful woman this universe has ever produced. And I gotta get you in some kind of shape before I can get my stupid ass back to her. Understand? So, I don't do this for entirely unselfish motive. I wish I could say that I did. but I would be lying if I did. It's just that my paydays are a little different than yours, that's all. Stuff that means things to, like, is important to me is somewhat different than, a lot of you anyway, many of you. And so I tell you what, I'm willing to share some of what I value with you. And if you like, you can share some of what you value with me as well. But it's not mandatory that it come the other way. Understand it's sufficient for us that you grant us recognition, to acknowledge the fact of our existence and the truth of your own reality, the truth of your own altitude or lack thereof, and your choice on what to do about it. This is all that's required of you. You're not required to like me, pay attention to me, concern yourself with me, not a single iota. I am not the deal here. You are. You need a miracle of instruction. It's here. Pay attention to it. If you find value for yourself, share it with others. If you find no value here, you're obligated to do nothing. Not even that. You're not obligated to do anything. Let me rephrase that. You're not obligated to do anything. And if you have found value in these talks, it's time to put the pedal to the metal, the rubber to the road. Practice what you know. Practice your own truth. Practice what God revealed to you. If for no other audience than me, I'll listen to that. For that I have undivided attention. So, again, I would like to apologize to this individual who I adore and who has entirely captivated my heart, my creative symbolism, and most of the time my manners. Most of the time, but you know what? I do stupid stuff, and she knows this, but you gotta know this too. I am not perfect. I am a human being and a man made of mud, just like you, just like Jesus, just like Enoch, just like Muhammad, just like Joan of Arc, just like Mother Teresa, just like Martin King, just like Father Damien to you. I make myself clear. And the miracle is that mud can transform to spirit. Mud can transform to fire, basically. This is what's possible. But it's not free. The mud you get for free. The rest you must earn. Jesus never gonna do this for you. Get it through your hands. It's against the law. He can't and he wouldn't, even if he could. Period. End of story on that whole issue. Right? You got to get your ante in of yourself and God, even to be the remotest bit believable for you. You need to do this. Forget about God. I'd like to make one more suggestion, if I may, as your king. Don't be showing up in front of us or God with fig leaves, presumption, or any type of fiat excuses. Stories are blame. Okay? The blame thing is done and over with. We got that out of our hair. That's history. Blame is unprofitable pursuit. Now, you want to do it again? You're welcome to. you want to explore a blame and the ribbons and bows, please be our guest. Just do that elsewhere. And you know where that is. Right where you are now. Stay where you are. For those of you who want to come out to play, it's a hell of a sandbox. And we play for keeps here. You know that. No dress rehearsal time. So what you author, you own. And the miracle of instruction, once you get here, needs to start coming from you. Understand? So, this is a 1,000-year commitment too, at least. In fact, I should let you know right now, it's addicting, and you get into this for 1,000 years, you'll never want to leave. You get into this for 2 minutes, you're going to want to leave. But anyway, having said that, you're free to. You need to understand this. Nobody is in jail here. It's not of their own making. Do we make ourselves clear? We need to learn from the Danes, and from the Icelandic people, and from the Norwegians, and the Swiss, and the Swedes, and the Latvians. The Serbs and the Croatians and the Greeks and the Macedonians have been at war on each other's throats since time immemorial, as well as the Irish and the English. Let's so now. The Irish and English were never a little pussy and a little money cured the whole thing. Amazing what people die for, isn't it? All that stuff is trying to be given away to you for free. So, if you learn nothing else from these talks, learn this. Never move anywhere close to a hospital. Have a good day. And for those of you coming, enjoy the promised land. It's what it's here for.